Hello everybody, my name is Domenico. You will soon hear a story. It is I who wrote this tale. One day I listened to Jungbub Lecture 6183. In this lecture, Master Cheon Gong said, "Nothing in this world ever happens without a reason." At that moment, a short old fable that I read somewhere flashed through my mind. And at that time, I wanted to look back on my life for a little while, so I wrote this. Please enjoy listening. Nothing happens by chance. In the course of his life, David was invariably always in the right place at the right time. He could rightly say that he was one lucky man. When he was just a boy, his father had to be urgently rushed to the hospital. The words uttered from the doctors a couple days later did not leave much room for hope. And from that moment on, he began to feel such sadness, and bit by bit this sorrow burrowed deep within him. He understood that the precious life that gave him support and protection would soon be gone. And when that happened, although he had done his best to be prepared, there was nothing to be done. He could not accept it. He was desperate. For the first time in his life, he felt the pain of abandonment. It was something unbearable. He felt that his young life no longer had any value. The days that followed would be sad ones. But he was able to unleash the vitality of his youth, which allowed him to complete his studies and even have fun with his friends, although the fear of suffering still caused him to keep to himself, especially when girls were involved. But one day he met a girl he really liked a lot. They started dating. He gradually lowered his defenses, and so, in the end, by mutual agreement, they decided to live together. He was happy again. Life had meaning again. But unfortunately, destiny had other plans. In fact, after only a few short months, the bliss of their courtship turned into anguish. He began to feel that he was standing in front of a different person. He began to think that maybe he had never really known this girl. And he felt abandoned again. It was just like the first time, and the pain he felt was intense. However, despite the difficulties, David gritted his teeth and held on. So they continued together for a few years. Then he began to experience such a strange feeling, like being locked up in a prison. Meanwhile, on top of that, his work also began to give him worries. There were rumors that the company was about to close its doors. His days could not be bleaker than this. One fine morning, leaving his house as usual to go to work, he was hit by a strong gust of wind. Everything went flying that morning. He even had a hard time walking, when suddenly he was blinded by something that ended up in his face, covering his eyes. He immediately removed it with his hand and saw that it was a page of a book. But for some strange reason, instead of letting the wind continue to disperse it, he put it into the pocket of his jacket. Sitting uncomfortably in an overcrowded subway, he remembered that page. He took it out of his pocket and began to read carefully. Once upon a time, there was a farmer who worked hard on his land with the help of his son. "Father, what a calamity!" the boy shouted one day. "Our horse has escaped from the stable." "Why do you call it misfortune?" his father replied. "Let's see what will happen." A few days later, the horse returned, carrying a whole herd of wild horses with it. "Father, what luck!" the boy exclaimed this time. "Our horse brought us other horses. Now they're ours." "Why do you call it luck?" "Let's wait and see." A few days later, the young man, in an attempt to tame one of the horses, was thrown off and fell to the ground, breaking his leg. "What a mishap, father!" But again the father distanced himself. "Why do you call it hardship?" he said. "Let's wait and see." But the boy, not at all convinced by his father's words, kept complaining in his bed. Days passed. Then some emissaries of the king came to the village with the task of finding young people to be recruited into the army. Naturally, the peasant's house was also visited. But when they saw the boy in bed with his leg immobilized, they could do nothing but leave him alone and continue on their way. Some time later, war broke out, and too many to count died on the battlefields. But that young man, thanks to his broken leg, remain unscathed. Suddenly all the noises, the lights, the bodies of the people standing on him, even the subway car he was in, disappeared around him as if by magic. He understood with great clarity that it was time to change course and abandon all his fears. He didn't go to work that day. He wandered aimlessly throughout the city, peering into windows, drinking a few too many cups of coffee, and reflecting, looking back on his life for a very long time, on the meaning of the choices he made, and on what were the possible solutions. That same day, he found the strength to break away from his partner. And this was only the first step. Soon after, he found a house of his own, and even a brand new job. With deep emotion, he saw that everything was perfect. He felt a deep sense of gratitude for all those people and all those situations that, despite having made him suffer so much and for so long, actually they had only helped him to grow stronger, to grow, and to be able to find himself.